Okay, we have a tremendous pleasure over here to be with Rabbi Alexander Seinfeld, who is someone who is a par excellence thinker, educator, inspirer, someone who has written books about the depths of one's amazement with the world, also appreciating the depths of one's insights into kavana, which is focusing and concentrating, and also an appreciable sense of how do we make a beautiful connection between the mind, body, and soul. There's a lot of depth over here, just scratching the surface. But really want to welcome Rabbi Seinfeld over here to being with us. Welcome to Toronto.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, we want to first get a little bit of backstory. Give us a little bit about the context of the rabbi before the rabbi. Just a few vignettes of what was it like growing up in your life that gave you a sense of ease or calm, and is that what gave you the roots to grow to where you are today?
Was blessed with parents who intuitively understood, and that though they never learned the Rambam, Maimonides, when he says the way to lift yourself up spiritually is through appreciating God's beautiful world. They never learned that, but they intuitively knew that. They made sure we appreciated the world, the nature, going out into nature, even in our backyard, food, not as being big foodies. Just appreciate your food, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Food should be good and tasty, and also your body. Eat healthy and feel good and be active, and that's the foundation. I think everyone has to go on their own path, but if you don't have that foundation of just being happy and person enjoying the world, you're not going to be able to go far. People are. I was blessed with that, and many people aren't blessed with that, and that's where I think where they struggle.
Sounds so wholesome. I don't know, it just sounds like wholesome growing up. And do you feel like looking at your parents, when you looked at your grandparents, if you were zoche or merited to see them, do you feel like you understood their Masor and how they looked at the world, and that was something that was viewed and passed over?
I was blessed to be with grandparents who saw that, who loved life. They were happy people, and it was small. It was a small town. My parents chose to raise us in a small town. I think for that reason, they wanted it to be just a calm, nurturing childhood for us.
That's so nice. And what did your parents do? Like, what was their day-to-day life like?
They were both attorneys.
Oh, busy, not busy, or maybe somewhat busy.
My mother went back to law school after her children were able to get to school on their own, and then she became a judge. In the courts of Washington State, where I grew up.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up with a lawyer and a judge.
Was that I can't imagine what that must have been like. You must have felt, were you under trial every moment?
Yes, every moment. Such scrutiny.
But with love of parents. That makes sense. So I guess, was there a lot of law and order in the way they looked and set up your family environment, the dynamic? And did that give you certain, like, the ingredients when you wanted to then move into a life of more Judaism?
Not at all.
Not at all. You're like, actually the opposite.
Yeah, they had studied, my parents were thoughtful people, and they'd studied the books about how to raise children, and they followed a method of laissez-faire. Don't have any rules. Maybe it's a little bit to a fault. Like it might have been better for me to have a little more structure, but Baruch Hashem, worked out.
So describe to me just a little bit of your journey so we can just appreciate some of the background. So then what happened? Like, where did that take you? You ended up growing in this beautiful home with, it sounds like, judge, mommy, daddy, attorney, right? And then when did you come into yourself and realize, I want something a little bit more? There is something more. What is that more? What does Judaism have to say?
Well, Judaism I was raised with was very stereotypical North American liberal Judaism. It was Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah, Pesach, Bar Mitzvah, bagels, and cream cheese. That was about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great for the first 13 years. When I became, started thinking myself, it just didn't feel like it was good for me. It wasn't speaking to me. We didn't have any alternative where I grew up. There was nothing. I never met a Jew who was Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Shabbos. My whole childhood, never met one, never saw one. Try to picture this, okay? I never saw with my own eyes growing up a pair of tefillin. Didn't know what they were. Never one told me about them. I saw sukkah in the backyard of the temple that was like this symbolic hut that didn't really mean much. Never actually was in one.
Was there a palm frond?
Probably, yeah, there was.
There was a lemon.
No,
Not even.
maybe, I don't know. It wasn't meaningful. It wasn't. There's no meaning to it. It was just this symbolic. Oh, it's a harvest festival, or something.
So then, what was the transition point?
So I'm in college, and I'm interested in my roots, and there's little steps along the way. I think one of the interesting, ironic ways that Kadosh Baruch Hu, that God guided me, was I ended up after college being a public school teacher in rural Mississippi.
Sounds a little bit like my background, working in Washington, D.C. as a literacy coach in Southeast.
So I'm in rural Mississippi,
Okay.
and I'm teaching high school, surrounded by the first time in my life being with people who actually were devoted religious people.
Mm.
I never had encountered. I mean, in high school, there were some born again kids that I ignored. They tried to get me to come to their Sunday afternoon hockey, room hockey games, but
Not into it.
We always avoid all the born again kids. We avoided those, right? But here I'm with people who are sincere, rural people, educated, college educated, a lot of them, and they're devoted to their religion. And the religion included a lot of knowledge about my people's book that they knew more about than I did. And they were very fascinated to meet a Jewish guy. They never met one before, most of these people. And I was a little bit ashamed that I didn't know a lot about my people's book. I didn't know they knew more about Israel than I did. I had some knowledge, obviously I was educated, but that sense of ignorance stayed with me. One other funny detail, I was renting a house from this woman who had been moved to a nursing home, and she still owned the house. And the person she didn't have any children. So the person who's kind of her caretaker, his man in town, had left all her stuff in the house. And there was a Bible. It's almost like you go to a hotel room and there's like a Bible.
The Gideon's Bible.
So she had a Bible there. It had all her notes in it. And I just was, out of curiosity, was reading it, random passages, mostly not from the New Testament. That didn't interest me. I was interested in our part of it. And I would read random chapters and realize I have no clue what's going on here. I don't understand this. I know that this is going to be, it should be meaningful, but I don't understand. I just felt ignorant. What drove me back to Judaism was a desire to learn and understand.
And so how did you nourish that? Because now we're talking, okay, it sounded like we had ChatGPT. We could just plug it in. We didn't have H.com.
Right.
So now you're at a place where there's a longing, a desire for something deep inside you. Where do you drink from?
Well, I don't know if we have time for the full story, but I'll tell you another segment of the story. And if you have to cut it out of the final editing, you can cut it out. But so fast forward, after a couple of years teaching there, I'm now had saved. It was so cheap. I was the lowest paid teacher in America. Literally,
I
was
specifically
me, because
that's
Mississippi
a level.
had the lowest paid teachers, and I was entry level, and the entry level teacher gets the lowest pay
on the rung.
Right. So I was literally the lowest paid teacher in America. $18,000 a year was my salary, my starting salary, but my cost of living was half that. So I was able to save money over 2 years. I saved enough money to do some traveling, and I traveled a number of different places. And one of the places I was in my travels was Paris, France, Paris. And I had a couple friends. It's a long story how these friends, but they're roughly my age, and they were this couple, not Jewish, Pierre and Veronique. Pierre was a computer scientist, and Veronique was a aerospace engineer.
Oh, interesting.
And they were very friendly to me. And they, unlike where I was renting a room, they actually had a laundry washing machine. And they said, you can bring your laundry here and do it anytime you want. So they gave me a key to their apartment.
So nice.
And I would go there every Thursday to do my laundry. And while I was doing my laundry, just hanging out with them. And one Thursday, I'm over there, and Veronique is sitting on the beanbag chair in the corner, and she's reading something. She's holding something in her hand, a book. And she looks up at me, I guess at me. I was the only person there, but she kind of said almost apologetically, I've read a lot of books, but I never read the Bible. So I decided I'd read the Bible. I guess she just wanted me not to think that she was going off the deep end by reading the Bible. So, okay, every Thursday, Veronique's there with her Bible and I'm doing my laundry. And one of these Thursdays, she looks up to me and says the following: "What kind of moral text is this to teach to children? The mother tells her son to dress up like his brother to fool his father. This is supposed to be a moral book to teach to children." This is what she says to me. Okay, I don't know where the following response came from. It came from deep inside of me. I said to her, "Wasn't the other brother bad?" She said, "I don't think so." I said, "Give me that." I took her French Bible and I'm looking through. I was sure I'd heard somewhere that Esau was a bad guy, but there's no proof of it in the text. It doesn't say that at all. He's an innocent victim. Strike two of ignorance. Like I knew I'm missing something.
Hmm.
Fast forward another many months. You said you were mentioning that this is the time before there's internet and H.com. People listening or watching this may remember a time when we had something called American Express traveler's checks. And the reason you get American Express traveler's checks is, first of all, your money, it's like better than cash, but they don't cost anything really. And then if you have the traveler's, even if you don't have the card, you have the right to get mail at any American Express office around the world.
Mm.
So it's very good service because you're traveling to a strange city and you want people to be able to write to you and there's no email. So you tell them the American Express address of that office in whatever city and you'll get mail there. So while I was in France, I'd written letters ahead to countries I wanted to visit, to people I knew or people who knew people I knew, to see if I could come visit. And when I got to London, American Express office, I had 2 letters waiting for me. One from Israel, friends of the family in Jerusalem who had said, "Sure, come anytime, you come stay with us." Another from India. We have this ashram is a great place to come. I'm not making this up. This is this true story. So I'm in London. I've got 2 options: Israel, India. Why did I want to go to Israel? It's my roots. I wanted to learn more. Why did I want to go to India? I want to learn how to be spiritual, how to meditate. So then I'm thinking about this. What shall I do? And I'm looking in the London Underground. And in the London Underground, this is the name of the subway.
The tunnel, yes.
They have an actual magazine called The Underground. And you flip through there, there's all these ads, and there's ads. Turns out, I hadn't known this before, London is like the best place in the world to travel from, like a hub. They have so many flights, so many charter flights. What happens is there's a charter flight to New York, let's say, and there's an empty 2 seats. So they'd rather fill the seats than have them empty. So you can get a nonstop to New York for $90, like just a cheap seat. So I'm looking at these tickets to Tel Aviv and to forget which city, southern India, and they were similar. They were comparable rates. I thought, I'm not in a hurry. I know the map. I learned geography. Israel is on the way to India. I'll go to Israel first, for a month or so, and then I'll go back to London and go to India. I got a round trip ticket to Israel. And then I figured I'd go to India after that. Okay. I show up with this family in Jerusalem, Erev Yom Kippur.
Erev Yom Kippur.
Yeah. Now, the father of the family didn't tell his wife and children that I was coming. He wanted to surprise them because they're old. They had made Aliyah. We had known them back in the States.
Oh, wow.
So they had been old family friends. I hadn't seen them, whatever. But it was just a funny thing. I showed up. Yom Kippur that year was on Shabbos, on Shabbat, and I showed up Thursday night. And I knew nothing. You have to understand. You know now what I knew, okay? I knew very little. I knew you fast on Yom Kippur. I knew that much. I didn't know you don't drink on Yom Kippur. I didn't know you don't turn on lights. I didn't know you don't tear toilet paper, I didn't know any of the prayers. And they had this, at that time, it was already an old edition of the Art Scroll Yom Kippur Machzor, Hebrew English. And they had this local kind of makeshift American kind of shul in their neighborhood where they said to me, and they're very gentle. They said, "We're going to go to shul. If you want to come, you can come. You don't have to. If you want to read, here's the book we're going to do. You're welcome to follow along." And I was there for the experience. I studied anthropology in college. I wanted to fully immerse. I was ready for anything, Let me have it. Come on. I want to do the whole
You want to
thing.
be with the natives.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they call it participant observation, I was ready, ethnography, I was ready to do it. That's what I was doing in Mississippi, right, before. So I'm all in. I do this Yom Kippur. I wanted to follow all the rules. I wanted to experience it. So I did everything. And I remember, I think I read every footnote, in the Art Scroll Moxer. And I tried to say all the prayers. There was no surprises until the end.
The shofar? Really?
I didn't know that was coming.
Like a left hook.
Made me feel so uplifted.
Wow.
That shofar really took me to Shemayim. So amazing. Realized that connected me. First time I'd ever really felt connected. Really special.
Do you have a vision, or is it a feeling that like still resonates with you?
Both. Still hear that shofar, that first.
It was like Hashem calling you back.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I got you. This is the transportation elevator to Shemayim, and it's carried through sound.
It was so wonderful.
It sounds like, just from the way you describe it, like experience for you is very important. And I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, like, how often are we focused on developing experiences? Like, are we conscious of experiencing thing, or do we just like travel through life? And I just wonder for you if that's a theme for you. Like, as you wrote, The Art of Amazement, this idea of like experiencing life in all its fullness and being vulnerable and open to it. Seems like that's like a spiritual quality almost. Or is it a quality? Is it a tool? What would you label that as?
This is you're really getting to the heart of, I think, is the famous tension between Lithuanian and Hasidic Judaism. That we've made a happy, marriage in the last 200 years. But Hasidus started because of feeling that Yiddishkeit had become too over-intellectualized. We need more artsik, avoda. We need to be able to, not just be in our head. And I think that's, we still have this problem. We still have this, we need to make sure that the way we are practicing, not forget about chinuch education is already an application of this, but just me, myself, have to make sure that I'm really feeling it. I heard the Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Aaron Feldman Shlita of Ner Yisrael in Baltimore, say in a public speech in 2011, the greatest crisis facing the Jewish people today, like this is, I don't know if you know the Rosh Hashiva, but he's a very impressive speaker. And when he speaks, it's like, the greatest crisis facing Klal Yisrael today is not the shidduch crisis, not the teenage going off the derech crisis, not the day school tuition crisis. And I think he listed 2 or 3 more nots. What's the greatest crisis? We're not feeling our Judaism. We're just going through the motions. We're not real with it. Listen to the words of the great Rosh Hashiva. The greatest crisis, he says. And I don't think he would say it's any different today. I communicate with everything I do, by the way. This book, The Body and Soul, I seek a lot of guidance from Rosh Hashiva like him, like Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, the Rosh Hashiva of Eshet Torah, like Rav Yaakov Hoffer in Baltimore, other Gedolim. I go to them and say, this is what I want to work on. What does the Rav say? I don't do anything on my own.
And I totally resonate with that, because I feel like everyone's looking for something real. And we live in a world where today we're surrounded and immersed in the worlds that we make up. Right? How much of the world is there? And I feel like it kind of like creates this cavity for us to really genuinely experience life.
Well, let's go. You want to go deep? Let's go deep.
Let's go deep. Let's double click.
I've asked the following question I should keep a score. I want to say 50 to 100 Jews who are educated in yeshiva or Beis Yaakov or seminary, and approximately 2 out of 10 get it right. Basic question. What's the first mitzvah in the Torah? Now, before people answer, I say, wait a second, before you answer, let's understand why it matters. Because I've never met a Jew of any flavor, of any stripe, who didn't care about mitzvahs. We may define them different. Some say a mitzvah is a good deed. Some say it's a commandment. Some say it's a spiritual opportunity. However you define mitzvah, every Jew I've ever met cares about doing a mitzvah. And Chazal say, if you want to understand any concept in Torah, look for the first time it appears in the Chumash.
Mm-hmm.
And that context will teach you the mukah, the depth of that. So it should matter very much to us all, where is the first mitzvah in the Torah? 2 out of 10 only. 8 out of 10 well-educated Jews don't know the answer. They often say, be fruitful and multiply, which is the first of the Rambam's Tariq mitzvahs. True.
If you use the Rambam.
But that's the first time the word mitzvah appears. God says to Adam, you must ochal tochal, eat from every tree in the garden.
Mm.
You're commanded to. It's not an option. It's a double verb. Ochal tochal, you must eat.
Imperative. You do this.
You must eat. Enjoy every fruit. Oh, and then there's one not to eat. Self-control. So enjoyment with a little self-control epitomizes mitzvah, and a mitzvah epitomizes what it means to be Jewish. If you're not enjoying this world, you're not living properly as a Jew. You're just going through motions. You're not being Jewish. Well, I don't know what religion you are. You're like a paper Jew, but you're not a real Jew. I'm sorry. You know what I mean. I don't want to insult anybody.
No, but we're saying that this is, when people think of Judaism, they think of rules, disciplines, right? I always play a little game with my students. I said, when I say Torah, you think, and people are like, rules, laws, commandments. But so when I say Judaism, people have these thoughts that build in their head, and I don't think they think pleasure.
I'll give you a good analogy. When I was in France, these people, I had forgotten about this story till now. Pierre and Veronique took me. They bought tickets to a French jazz concert. Okay, French people love jazz music, and they love music in general. They're classical music, all kinds of music. Why are there not any great French jazz musicians? Why are all the great jazz musicians American? Why aren't there any? There are very few great French musicians of any type. There are a couple. Every once in a while, Jean-Pierre Rampal was the famous flutist from France, flautist. But most of the greatest musicians are not from places like France. Why is that? Their approach to music is very methodical. You learn the rules, you learn rhythm and harmony and melody and so on, and you follow rules, but there's no heart in it. Great music comes from the heart. The greatest musicians in the world of history, many of them were Jews. Think of Isaac Yitzhak Stern, the great violinist. Think of Joshua Bell, probably currently the greatest violinist. He's Jewish. Think of Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong? Did you say Louis Armstrong? Pretty sure he wasn't Jewish, was he?
But he grew up in that Jewish family.
Not only that, he, in his autobiography that he wrote in the hospital before he died, the longest chapter is devoted to this Jewish family, the Karnofskys, right, who we know very little about. They were immigrants to New Orleans, and not only did they lend him money or give him money to buy his first cornet and encouraged him to play it. He says in that chapter, those Jewish people, they taught me how to sing with soul. What do you mean they taught him to sing with soul? They were vocal teachers. They were choir teachers. He went to the Shabbos table. He heard them sing Shabbos songs, and he learned how what all musicologists call the greatest, most influential musician of the 20th century owes everything in his music to a Jewish family who are singing Shabbos songs.
One of the hidden secrets, right, that no one appreciates. I remember seeing this story also this past year, and I'm like, what?
By the way, I put that in a little plug. I made an app for iPhone called the Amazing Jewish Fact a Day Calendar.
Oh.
So that's one of the facts. Every day you get like this little 60-second nugget of, wow, that's cool. And if you're interested in that, then there's a link to like aish.com content or other online content that is related to that topic.
Okay, it's like Rabbi Seinfeld, like Hayom Yom. Amazing. Well, I think what we're discovering right now is like this idea of like there is a heart feeling, and I think that we all want to feel alive, and somehow that got in our brains that like that's anti-Jewish, or we don't realize that like the Judaism is the gateway into living a life of experience and also consciousness and also fullness of embracing realities. And I feel like that's
I think this is a natural challenge for people. I'll give you another example. You're driving down the road and you have rules of the road. I've got to stop. I've got to go. Who's got right of way? And it's important to follow the rules. Those rules are for all of our benefit, right? And you know how you drive and you can't sometimes even see who's in the other car because of the reflection off the windshield. It's just like a car. There's nobody there.
yeah.
And a person should pause and think, there's actually someone in that car. And maybe they can see me. And maybe I should be friendly, even though I can't see them. It's a tension between rules and people, the rules and world, right? The famous line, as you go on life's journey, stop and smell the roses. You got to pause and you got to appreciate what's around you.
What do you think of some of the tools that you've learned, or just one of the tools that you have in your toolkit that you can share with us that really can open people up to this idea?
Get a children's book about anatomy. And every Shabbos meal, not more often, open to one page and share it with the family. Show a picture, say, guess what part of your body this is, and then read about it. Wow, it's amazing. There's nothing more amazing than the human body. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, you want a proof that God loves us? I'll give you, this is Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the great Gadol Hador of the second half, the middle of the 19th century, the founder of the entire Musar movement. He was a supreme, sublime genius. He says, what's the proof that God loves us? The chesed, the kindness he does for us, specifically the wonders of the human body. If you want to appreciate life, appreciate your body, study anatomy. Oh, I didn't really understand this till about 5 years ago. I got a call from a rabbi in Baltimore. I was visiting my mother. She should be well on the West Coast.
Amen.
And I get this call. I'm starting this new boys yeshiva in Baltimore. I want you to teach at it. I said, Rabbi, appreciate the offer. I'm not teaching anymore. I'm now doing teacher training. I do professional development workshops, but I'm not really doing the teaching anymore. Well, please think about it. And he kept calling me. He wouldn't take no for an answer. So I finally said, well, what do you want me to teach? He said, I want you to teach anatomy. And I thought for a second, wait, this is maybe from Shemayim. Because I've taught almost every subject under the sun. I've taught in physics and chemistry and biology and history and English and math and so on. Never taught anatomy, and I never really had a chance to learn it. So I thought, okay, 4 students in the opening year of the yeshiva. I can handle that. Okay, not too much. I learned so much. I realized anybody who hasn't learned anatomy and physiology cannot be an Orthodox Jew. So just saying the bracha every morning, Okeach Ivrim, thank you for my eyes. If you haven't learned how the human eye works, you don't know what you're talking about. If you haven't learned how your digestive system works, and I'm talking about including your pancreas, and I'm including the biome inside your intestine, et cetera, then we say the bracha of Asher Yatzar, you don't know what you're talking about.
I'll share with you just a vignette. I don't know. Sometimes I just can't go to sleep. This like a past year, I decided to do a double click on DNA and RNA, and like today you see like electrical microscopes, or there are 3D models of things that are built up, and you're witnessing how the DNA strands are formed,
Yes,
built,
I was going to
created, ravel, create threading, and then truncate and then spin onto itself.
Yes.
And you realize, God, you made a Xerox copy machine that is constantly working at all times, that then figures out how to zip drive itself into the most condensed, beautiful features. And like this happens all the time. And I describe it to people and they're like, that's inside. I'm like, yeah, we have a Xerox copy machine.
If anybody wants to exponentially raise your level of kavanah and your brachas, email me and I'll send you 2 videos. One, they're both about 3 minutes long. One is about mitosis. You're going to watch mitosis happen and you're going to be stunned. And that happens millions of times a minute in your body. And number two, I'll send you a 3 or 5 minute video about how your immune system works. And once you see that, you'll realize the expression, it's not rocket science, is actually the wrong expression. The expression should be, it's not immunology. The immune system is far more complex than rocket scientists. It's so complex, there's no one who is an expert in it. The experts are in one little slice of the immune system. It's that vast.
It's interesting. There are people today who vie for the fact of like they understand human consciousness and psychology so well and anatomy. There's like there is no free will. We know the brain's dynamics so well, it doesn't work. That for there to be free will. I think to myself like, have a little humility. Do you think we know all that much? We're just talking about one aspect of immunology, talking about these aspects of DNA, which are still unfolding every single day. Another secret, and the human consciousness, which is the crown of the entirety of it all, right? Which is splendid. How vast and how unknown is it still and uncharted it still is.
The AI revolution is a challenge for that, because AI really is intelligent. It's not conscious, but it is intelligent. That's where we have to be careful in understanding how to use AI as a tool, because it could be easy to think it's actually conscious. It's easy to confuse the two.
That's right. It doesn't know. And I think that's where consciousness is also a very interesting and unexplored topic, which I'm sure we could double click on for a lot of hours. How consciousness is different than logic. It has a logic to it, but it's an experiential awareness that somehow sits on the top of the computer system. It's not the calculator, it's not the processor, it's something that's above it. And that's a subtle piece that I don't know if people always think about, the distinction between thoughts, facts, and logic and consciousness. A lot we can go in. And really, Rabbi, The Art of Amazement, I really want to recommend anyone to read any of your svarim that you wrote, any of the books that you've written. It's been a tremendous pleasure. I think we could probably go a lot longer for many more hours over here. Maybe we're going to have to do a double take on another segment over here. But it's been an absolute pleasure being with you over here and learning just a little bit about your background and just your interest and your beautiful way of thinking life. May we all be able to double click with you and learn a little more. Thank you for joining us here in Toronto.
Thank you so much for having me.
You like what you heard? Well, guess what? Click the link, subscribe, join us, connect with us so that we can continue to provide you fresh, awesome content. Thanks for joining.